Good evening, everyone. This is the call to order for tonight's meeting, Council and Committee. Councillor Flagg, you have a motion?
I do. I move that Councillor McDermott be appointed as the chair of this evening's Council and Committee meeting, July 6, 2026, due to the absence of both the mayor and the acting mayor, and further that Councillor Noyes be appointed to preside as chair of Infrastructure Services Subcommittee meeting due to the absence of both the chair and vice chair of that committee.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. The roll call, Mr. Clerk? Oh, I'm sorry,
Thank you. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land upon which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Attawandaronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe people, including the Mississaugas of the Credit. We are the beneficiaries of ancient agreements such as the Dish with One Spoon between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, who agree to share the abundance of the land through peace, friendship, and mutual respect. The two-row wampum by which the Haudenosaunee welcomed settlers and agreed to share the land in mutual respect, and the Treaty of Niagara, considered a fundamental document by First Nations in all future relations and treaties with the British. We recognize that we have a responsibility to be stewards of the land in cooperation and collaboration with the Indigenous peoples, not only for one generation, but for all generations to come. We understand that we have an obligation to learn the lessons of our history, educate ourselves about the experiences of the Indigenous people, and seek opportunities to heal the wounds that will result in reconciliation with our Indigenous sisters and brothers. Many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people live and work in Fort Erie. We stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. We have the good fortune to live in a land of such abundance, diversity, and beauty. Let us be vigilant in protecting Turtle Island.
Thank you, Councillor Christensen. The roll call, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Redekop, Councillor Dubanow, and Councillor Lewis are absent this evening. All other members are present.
Pecuniary interest. Thank you. Notice of upcoming public meetings and open house. Fort Erie Zoning Bylaw Review Project is on Tuesday, July 14, 2026, 5 to 7 p.m. at the Leisureplex 3 Municipal Drive. We will have 2 public meetings this evening. The process will be the same for each. There will be a member of staff that will be providing information relative to the application before us. Then there will be an opportunity for members of council to ask the staff member questions. After that, the applicant or the applicant's agent will address council. Again, subject to questioning from members of council. Thereafter, I will ask if anyone other than the owner wishes to speak in support of the application, and then we'll go to anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application, who has questions that they wish to ask or matters they wish to raise. I'll then ask Mr. Patton if there's anyone in the digital waiting room who might want to chime in one way or another, and further, I will ask the clerk if we have received any communication later in the evening with regards to this application. Once we're done with that, we will move into the report stage that has been made part of the agenda tonight. So we'll start out with zoning bylaw 5289. And Giuseppe Ferrari is going to give us a lowdown on. Good evening.
Can you hear me all right? My name is Giuseppe Ferrari. I am a junior development planner here with the town of Fort Erie. The purpose of this public meeting is to provide information to council regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 5289 Gilmore Road. The applicant is proposing a zoning bylaw amendment to facilitate the severance of a residence surplus to an agricultural operation as a result of a farm consolidation. This zoning bylaw amendment application comes as a condition of consent for application B 2625, which was approved by the Committee of Adjustment on January 22nd, 2026. The purpose of this application is to preclude residential uses on the farm parcel in perpetuity and to permit the residential surplus dwelling with reduced zoning permissions. This slide outlines a timeline of the development application process. In accordance with Bill 109, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is subject to a 90-day processing and review timeline. The clock starts the day the application is deemed complete, which was April 21st, 2026, and will stop the day when council makes a decision on the application. Today marks day 76 of 90 of this time frame. The deadline for a decision on this application is July 20th, 2026, and notification of tonight's public meeting was provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act by placing a public notice sign on the subject property on June 16th, 2026. In addition, all property owners within 120 meters were mailed a notice of public meeting on June 16th, 2026. So this aerial photograph of the subject lands, as well as the surrounding area. The subject lands are located outside of the town's urban boundary in an agricultural area of the town of Fort Erie. The parcel borders a municipal boundary with the city of Port Colborne to the west and is located just north of Highway 3. This consent sketch illustrates the proposed lot configuration. The surplus farm dwelling is to be severed onto a separate lot that is 0.78 hectares in area, which is identified on part 1 of this application sketch. And the remnant lands, which are part 2 on this application sketch, will continue its agricultural use for the purposes of farm consolidation. The area of part 2 is 34.6 hectares. The consent application B2625 was heard and conditionally approved by the town's Committee of Adjustment on January 22nd, 2026. Approval of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is a condition of the approval of consent. The site is approximately 35.43 hectares in area and is a through lot with multiple frontages. The following summarizes the land uses surrounding the subject property. So to the north includes agricultural lands, which includes 5247 Gilmore Road. And north of Gilmore Road contains more agricultural lands with detached residential dwellings. To the east is Burger Road, which includes detached dwellings and on agricultural lots. The lands to the east also include natural heritage features. The lands to the south contain more natural heritage features and vacant agricultural land. And to the west of the site is the city of Port Colborne, which consists of primarily agricultural land and natural heritage features. So this is a photograph of the site facing south from Gilmore Road. This is the surplus farm dwelling. And this is a photograph of the agricultural area from Burger Road facing west. So the subject lands are designated agricultural in part and environmental protection in part within the town's 2021 official plan. There's a natural heritage feature on the western and central portion of the subject site, which includes provincially significant wetlands, significant natural area, and a woodlot over 2 hectares. The provincially significant wetlands are regulated under the NPCA. Planning staff note that all natural features are located on part 2 of the subject site and will not be impacted by the zoning bylaw amendment. Schedule D of the official plan identifies the subject lands as being within an area of archaeological potential. Planning staff have not requested an archaeological assessment for the surplus farm dwelling as it already exists on part 1, and there's no proposed development on part 2 of the subject site. The Town of Fort Erie Council adopted a new official plan on August 25th, 2025. As of May 19th, 2026, the new official plan is now in full force and effect. This application was deemed complete on March 27th, 2026. Accordingly, town staff have applied the clergy principle, which reviewed the application under the plans that were currently in force and effect at the time that it was deemed complete, which includes the 2021 official plan consolidation. Within the 2025 official plan, the designations remain the same with the exception of the natural environment system overlay, which occupies a slightly larger area than from the 2021 official plan. It is noted that the surplus farm dwelling is located on the portion of the site that is designated as agricultural, and the proposed severance will not impact the areas designated as natural environment system or natural environment system overlay. The subject lands are zoned agricultural in part, environmental protection zone in part, and environmental conservation overlay in part. The EC overlay zone and EP zone will not be impacted by this proposal. The zoning bylaw amendment application proposes a site-specific agricultural zone for the severed residential lot on Part 1 with reduced minimum lot area and reduced minimum lot frontage. The second site-specific agricultural zone on the retained agricultural lot, which is Part 2, is proposed to have a reduced minimum interior side yard setback to an existing agricultural building, as well as a provision that would prohibit any future residential uses on Part 2 of the site. This is a zoning matrix that provides an outline for the current agricultural zone permissions as well as what is being proposed. The permitted uses include agricultural uses, residential uses, and other accessory uses specified in section 7.2 of the zoning bylaw. Staff are of the opinion that the restriction of residential uses on the remnant agricultural lot is supportable. The restriction ensures the remnant lot remains available for farming and supports the long-term agricultural viability of the property. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed frontage on Part 1 of 80 meters is supportable as it provides adequate space to accommodate the residential use and maintains sufficient space for access, parking, and maintenance. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed lot area on Part 1 is supportable as the proposed lot area remains sufficient to accommodate the residential use, including adequate space for private services. The Niagara Region has conducted an inspection of the private septic service that is currently on the site, and it is adequate and in good repair. Staff are of the opinion that the reduced minimum interior side yard setback from 23 meters to 15 meters to the existing agricultural building is sufficient. As it is existing and there is no livestock on the site, it is currently just used for storage. So the proposed site-specific provisions for Part 1 include a reduced lot frontage from 180 meters to 80 meters, as well as a reduced minimum lot area of 20 hectares to 0.78 hectares. The proposed site-specific provisions for Part 2 include the reduced minimum interior side yard setback to the existing agricultural building from 23 meters to 15 meters, as well as prohibit the future use of residential uses on the site. The proposed lot frontage the proposed lot frontage and lot area of Part 1 are sufficient in size to accommodate the existing surplus residential dwelling, several accessory buildings to the residents, as well as the private septic system. An open house took place on May 27th at 5 p.m. in the Town Hall atrium. A notice of open house was circulated to residents within 120 meters of the subject site. The notice was provided in accordance with the Planning Act requirements. The agent and town staff were in attendance. No members of the public attended this open house, and no comments were submitted by members of the public in writing. Planning staff recommend approval of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The proposal represents good land use planning and meets the requirements of the Planning Act. It is consistent with the provincial planning statement and conforms to the Niagara Regional Official Plan and Town Official Plan. This application will facilitate the severance of resident surplus to an agricultural operation, thereby allowing a Niagara-based farmer to consolidate agricultural land for farming processes. And that concludes the information presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, I just want to say, I understand this is your first night at council.
It is, yes.
Welcome to the team. You did a great job.
Thank you.
We will ask for the applicant to come and address council. Good evening.
Good evening. All right. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, thank you. So thank you for having me. My name is Callum Gomez, and I'm the Development Coordinator for Upper Canada Consultants. I'm here to provide a brief presentation summarizing the application for zoning bylaw amendment on the lands addressed as 5289 Gilmore Road. Giuseppe touched on a lot of my points, so I'll try and speed through this pretty quickly. This slide provides the aerial view of the subject lands. The lands measure 35.39 hectares in lot area and feature 282.35 meters of frontage on Gilmore Road. The lands are located on the south side of Gilmore Road and border the city of Port Colborne to the west. The subject property is outside the urban boundary area of the town of Fort Erie and designated prime agricultural area in the Niagara Official Plan, and agriculture, environmental protection, and environmental conservation in the previous town of Fort Erie official plan, which was in effect at the time of submission of application. Under the new official plan, the lands are designated agriculture and natural environment system. The lands are zoned agricultural, environmental protection, and environmental conservation in the town of Fort Erie zoning bylaw. So this is the approved severance sketch. An application for consent was submitted to the town of Fort Erie proposing to sever 0.785 hectares of the subject lands containing a detached dwelling as a residence surplus to a farming operation. The remaining 34.6 hectares of land containing farmland used for the farming of cash crops, a farm building, and a significant and other wetlands were proposed to be retained for the continued use of the agricultural operation. On January 22nd, 2026, the Town of Fort Erie Committee of Adjustment heard consent file B2625 and approved the severance application subject to 5 conditions. Condition 1 of consent approval requires that the owner receive final approval of a minor zoning bylaw amendment to permit the zoning relief requested for the new lots and to implement agricultural production only zoning on the remnant parcel of farmland to prohibit its use for future residential purposes. This slide displays Schedule A to the draft zoning bylaw amendment, which depicts the proposed zoning. Part 1 and Part 2 will be rezoned from agricultural A to site-specific agricultural A-X. Part 3 and Part 4 are zoned environmental protection and environmental conservation associated with the wetlands on the site, and these zones are to remain unchanged. Site-specific provisions for Part 1 are requested to permit a minimum lot area of 0.78 hectares and a minimum lot frontage of 80 meters for the severed parcel containing the residential dwelling. And site-specific provisions for Part 2 are requested to permit a minimum interior side yard of 15 meters for agricultural buildings and to prohibit residential uses on the remnant parcel of farmland in accordance with the policy direction of the Provincial Planning Statement, Niagara Official Plan, and the Town of Fort Erie Official Plan for surplus farm severances. To summarize, an application for zoning bylaw amendment has been submitted to the Town of Fort Erie to satisfy conditions of consent approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any comments or questions, Mr. Gomez?
Thank you.
I'll ask if anyone other than the owner wishes to speak in favor of this application. Seeing none, we'll go to anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this application. Seeing none. I'll then ask Mr. Patton, is there anybody in the digital waiting room? We're batting 100% here. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, have you received any information in the last little while about this one?
No correspondence was received.
Okay, thank you. Would somebody be at 26? Councillor Noyes, thank you. No further comments or questions, correct? All in favor? Carried. Our second meeting of the night, which is a zoning bylaw amendment for 2277 Ridgemount Road. Mr. Miles? Thanks, Mr. Benstra.
Council, and members of the public in attendance. My name is Miles Banfield, and I'm a junior development planner with the town of Fort Erie. The purpose of this public meeting is to provide information to council regarding a proposed zoning bylaw amendment at 2277 Ridgemount Road. The applicant is requesting a zoning bylaw amendment to facilitate the severance of a residence surplus to an agricultural operation on the subject lands as a result of farm consolidation. This zoning bylaw amendment is a condition of approval for an associated consent application, which was approved by the town's Committee of Adjustment on November 20th, 2025. The applicant is seeking to rezone the subject lands to a site-specific agricultural zone that will permit reduced lot frontage, reduced lot area, and a reduced front yard setback on the proposed residential lots and preclude the future residential uses in perpetuity on the remnant farmland. This slide shows a timeline for the development application process. The application was deemed complete on March 27, 2026. Notification of the July 6, 2026 public meeting was provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act by placing a public notice sign on the property on June 16, 2026. In addition, all property owners within 120 meters were mailed the notice of complete application and public meeting, also on June 16, 2026. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment application is subject to a 90-day processing and review timeline that begins the date the application is deemed complete and will stop the date that council makes a decision on the application. Right now, we're at the public meeting and recommendation report stage, and today marks day 101 of the 90-day timeline. The short delay in meeting the 90-day timeline was due to the applicant needing to work out some details with the Niagara Region related to septic design, including the decommissioning of an existing well. Here we have an aerial photograph of the subject lands as well as the surrounding area. Subject lands are located in an agricultural area within the town of Fort Erie, outside the urban boundary, directly west of the intersection of Ridgemount Road and Curtis Road, and is approximately 26.93 hectares in area. This consent sketch illustrates the proposed lot configurations. The existing residence surplus to the agricultural operation is to be severed onto a separate lot that is 0.48 hectares in area, shown on Part 1. There's also several accessory buildings on Part 1, including a barn, silo, shed, and detached garage. The remnant lands shown on Part 2 will continue its agricultural use and will be used by the applicant for the purposes of farm consolidation. The lot area of Part 2 is 26.42 hectares. It is noted that the lot size of Part 1 is reduced in order to retain more agricultural land while containing the accessory structures on the residential lot and avoiding the environmental features which are located immediately south of Part 1. As mentioned, the subject lands are irregularly shaped and currently contain a single detached dwelling and several accessory buildings. Subject lands also contain agricultural crops and woodlands. The subject lands are surrounded by large agricultural and residential lots with mostly single detached dwellings. The southeastern area of the subject lands abuts St. John's Anglican Church, as shown in the image. Summary of the surrounding land uses includes, to the north, we have agricultural land, single detached dwellings, and a former rail corridor. To the east is Ridgemount Road, agricultural land, and single detached dwellings, as well as the church and cemetery and woodlands as well. To the south, there's agricultural lands, single detached dwellings, again, St. John's Anglican Church, and woodlands. And to the west is agricultural land. This image shows a northern view from the subject lands along Ridgemount Road. This image shows an eastern view from the subject lands facing the dwelling across the streets. This image shows a south-facing view from the subject lands along Ridgemont Road. Note that the red building is located across the street from the subject land. This image shows a west view facing the subject lands. The dwelling to be severed on the proposed residential lot can also be seen in this image. The subject lands shown in the blue outline are designated as agricultural in the town's official plan. Permitted uses within this designation include agricultural-related uses such as crop growing, raising of livestock, and forestry, among other uses. Schedule B of the official plan identifies the subject lands as being within a petroleum resource area. As such, a petroleum resources impact study is required and was included as a condition of approval for the associated consent application. Schedule D of the official plan also identifies the subject lands as being within an area of archaeological potential. Planning staff have not requested an archaeological assessment as the farm surplus dwelling already exists on the proposed residential lot and no new development is proposed on the remnant farmland. Town of Fort Erie Council adopted a new official plan on August 25th, 2025. As of May 19th, 2026, the 2025 official plan is now in full force and effect. As this application was deemed complete on March 27, 2026, town staff have applied the clergy principle and reviewed this application under the plans that were in force and effect at the time of application submission, including the 2021 official plan consolidation. Within the 2025 official plan, the designations remain the same, with the exception of the natural environment system, which aligns with the other woodlands feature that is shown in orange on the screen. It is noted that the proposed residential lot does not contain this feature. The subject lands are zoned agricultural in the zoning bylaw. This zoning bylaw amendment application proposes to permit reduced lot frontage, lot area, and front yard setback for the residential lot. This amendment also proposes to permit reduced lot frontage for the remnant farmland and to implement agricultural production only on the remnant farmland as well. This slide shows the zoning permissions of the agricultural zone as well as the site-specific requests. Permitted uses in the agricultural zone include agricultural uses, home occupations, single detached dwellings, among other uses that are specified under section 7.2 of the zoning bylaw. Staff are of the opinion that the restriction of residential uses on the remnant agricultural lot is supportable. This restriction ensures that the remnant lands remain available for farming, supporting the long-term agricultural viability of the property. Protection of agricultural land also directly aligns with provincial, regional, and town policies. Staff are of the opinion that the frontage of the proposed residential lot of 47.06 meters is supportable, as it is adequate to accommodate residential use, as it maintains sufficient space for access, parking, and maintenance. Staff are also of the opinion that the proposed reduced frontage for Part 2 of 140.02 meters is supportable as it maintains sufficient space for farm access and is not anticipated to negatively impact farming operations. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed lot area of 0.48 hectares of the residential lot is supportable, as this lot area remains sufficient to accommodate a residential use, including adequate space for private services. Staff are also of the opinion that the proposed front yard setback of 12.4 meters is supportable, as this setback represents an existing condition that has achieved a degree of compatibility that is acceptable to staff. Town records also indicate that the dwelling has existed since 1900. Here we have a consent sketch with the zoning deficiencies identified. A public open house was held in the atrium of Town Hall at 5:00 p.m. on April 21st, 2026. The open house was attended by the agent and town staff. Notice of the open house was provided by mail on April 7th, 2026 to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands. No members of the public attended the open house, and no written or verbal comments have been received from the public to date. Planning staff recommend approval of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The proposal represents good land use planning and meets the requirements of the Planning Act, is consistent with the provincial policy statement, and conforms to the Niagara official plan and the town's official plan. This application will facilitate the severance of a resident's surplus to an agricultural operation, thereby allowing a Niagara-based farmer to consolidate agricultural land for farming purposes. The following study was submitted by the applicant in support of the application. Planning brief prepared by Upper Canada Consultants. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions, Mr. Banfield? Councillor Noyes?
Thank you, Councillor McDermott. My question is about I understand they're going to put a replacement septic system in there, right?
Yeah.
And there's a question about that the existing well on site has to be decommissioned. How do we know that's going to be decommissioned? Like, it's a recommendation, it's basically says that'd be decommissioned, but how do we know? Who's going to make sure it's done?
The Niagara Region has indicated after they reviewed the geotechnical study that the well has been appropriately decommissioned.
Is it decommissioned now?
It's my understanding that it is.
Okay. Kind of says that it has to be done in the future, but I just want to make sure it is done, because I'm assuming that the reason they're picking on this well is because it's going to be closer to the new septic system. Am I just?
I'm not sure what the exact requirements of the Niagara Region are, but I am aware that it was related to the septic conditions and the well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Banfield.
Thank you.
We'll ask Mr. Gomez back up here, representing Glen Gordon.
Okay, thank you again. I'll now provide a brief presentation for this application. So here's an aerial view of the subject lands. They're located north of Bowen Road and west of Ridgemount Road, with 187 meters of frontage along Ridgemount Road. The lands feature an area of 26.948 hectares, and the subject parcel is designated prime agricultural area in the Niagara Official Plan, and further designated agricultural and environmental conservation in the previous Town of Fort Erie Official Plan. Under the new Official Plan, the lands are designated agriculture and natural environment system. In the Town of Fort Erie zoning bylaw, the lands are zoned agriculture and environmental conservation overlay. This overlay is associated with the woodland feature, which is mostly contained on the lands to the south. The portion of the subject land zoned environmental conservation is a very small sliver of land on the southeast corner of the property that contains part of the woodlands. No change to this overlay is requested as part of this application. On November 20th, 2025, the Town of Fort Erie Committee of Adjustment approved consent file B2025, subject to conditions. Condition 1 required that the owner receive final approval of a minor zoning bylaw amendment to permit the requested relief to create the new lots and to implement the agriculture production only zoning on the remnant parcel of farmland. And this depicts the approved severance sketch. And this is the severance sketch part 2, which displays a close-up of the residential lot. Shown here is the proposed zoning. Part 1 and Part 2 will be zoned site-specific agricultural, A-X, and Part 3 will remain environmental conservation overlay. Site-specific relief is requested for Part 1 to permit a minimum lot area of 0.48 hectares, a minimum lot frontage of 46.5 meters, and to recognize the existing deficiency in front yard setback for the existing dwelling of 9.7 meters. Site-specific relief is requested to permit a minimum lot frontage of 135 meters on Part 2, and to prohibit future residential uses on the retained parcel of farmland in accordance with provincial, regional, and local planning policy. All right, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Noyes?
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Can you show me where the existing septic tank is now and where they're planning on putting it?
Sure. Okay. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but here's the,
I can see that, yeah.
yeah.
It moved too quickly, I couldn't.
Sorry, there. So this is the existing septic bed. They're actually not proposing a new septic bed right now. What the region was looking for was that there was enough space in the future, if this one were to fail, that you would be able to put a replacement septic on the site. So through contacting the region and all that, we provided a plan with basically a box of an area of where we'd be able to put a new specific septic bed that will meet all the Ontario Building Code requirements, and that satisfied them so that they're happy with that a new replacement septic system can be implemented if it needed to be.
Okay, and thank you for that. Where is the current well?
The well is the mentioned being decommissioned is kind of around this part one, or around the T of part one.
Okay, so if in the future you do need to put a new septic tank in, it's no closer to the well that's currently there.
The well would be decommissioned because the septic bed would be approximately in this location. And they do have a MECP recorded well kind of to the rear of the barn back here that will be the main well used for collecting water and for servicing the site.
And you may not know this, are there any, I know that the people in this area do use their wells for a variety of things, and they are worrying about leaching and stuff like that, but this doesn't increase that risk at all, does it?
No, it doesn't. And through the Hydro-G study that was submitted through the consent application, they sent out a questionnaire to all of the neighbors to see how their wells are going and whether they have any concerns. And there were no significant concerns from any of the neighbors.
Good to hear, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I will ask anyone other than the owner who wants to get up and speak in favor of this application. Seeing none, I will ask if anybody wants to oppose this one. Seeing none, Mr. Patton, is there anybody in the digital waiting room? No. And have we received any communications at all?
No comments were received.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry on that. Councillor Christensen, you want to move that?
Yes,
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
move that.
So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Somebody might want to move that? I beg your pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Can't let that mayor go away too fast. Okay, we'll go back to the consent agenda. Mover? Councillor Christensen? Anybody want anything pulled, or Councillor Noyes?
I want to mention two of them, the IS 08-2026, the annual 2025 American Water Works Association. And I want to just give a thumbs up because it was an excellent report, very well written. And on top of that, if I'm not mistaken, did we not also receive a grant because of the progress we've made with is this not the one that no, I'm seeing a no, but we should have. But anyway, I see that that our population increased, but we're still doing a very good job at not we can still improve, but it's going in the right direction in regards to unauthorized water usage. I also wanted to bring up PBS 36/2026, the proposed lot maintenance bylaw amendment. Hang on, let me get this opened. I just have to find it on my thing. Okay, my question is about the vacant homes and vacant lots. I saw the definition. I read that.
Just one sec, Councillor Noyes. Mr. McCaffrey, you want to come up and deal with this one? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the vacant homes in regards to boarding up the windows and things, and it's not just for residential, it's commercial. I think it's for all buildings, right? So I'm just wondering, and I'm reading on page, what page am I reading on? I guess it's page 6, right at the bottom about a vacant structure and what the definition of vacant structure is. So, and you only need 2 of the following. And I'm just wondering, okay, there's places, okay, I won't say the specific place, but I think we're all very familiar with it, on the corner of Ridge Road and Garrison. It used to be an old gas station restaurant. Okay, I'm pretty sure you would be. So I also drove by it today, and so in this particular case, I'm using that as an example, the windows aren't boarded. I would imagine this would fall into this one. So then with this bylaw going forward, we should be seeing that building with the plywood and the windows, et cetera, closed up. Okay, but like if someone's on, okay, we'll move past that one. So if someone has their house vacant, let's say someone won $5 million and moved to Hawaii, and they have no family present, and the house is basically in receivership or in a will going to somebody someplace, that person, there wouldn't be a problem with that particular house, as long as there's some hydro going into it or there's some. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Flagg?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for your information to Councillor Noyes. Just wondering if you can explain what a lot is when it comes to this specifically. So if we have a agricultural piece of land not considered a lot, I don't imagine. I'm just trying to wrap my head around what constitutes a lot within this.
Someone owned it. If it had been abandoned, we would make a determination. If we found it to be abandoned, we would apply the parameters of this bylaw. Does that meet what you're asking?
I don't read this that it requires a building on this lot.
That's correct. A vacant lot.
A vacant lot would still fall under this category.
It would. That was the kind of the genesis of this report. We were receiving complaints about vacant lots not being tended.
I recall that. But most of those vacant lots were in urban settings.
That's correct.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's really what we're trying to maintain here.
That is what we're trying to get to.
Excellent. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on the agenda? All in favor? Opposed, if any? So we'll move to Planning, Building, and Bylaws Services. Councillor Christensen.
Thank you, Councillor McDermott. This meeting of the Planning, Building, and Bylaw Services Subcommittee is now in session. There are no presentations or delegations, no reports. Is there any new business or any inquiries? Councillor Noyes?
Thank you, Councillor Christensen. And I did have an opportunity, I left a message, I shouldn't say I had an opportunity to discuss this with Anamika, but I'm a bit concerned about some of the trees we're planting and where they're being planted. And I'm wondering if we don't have a tree policy on which trees should go where, we need one. And I'll give you two examples that I noticed just this week. There's oak trees planted on the boulevard about 2 feet from the sidewalk. And I think if anybody remembers going down West Main before the new sidewalks went in, how many oak trees were there that disrupted the concrete, the sidewalks. So not only are they not recommended near sidewalks, they're also a mess when people are walking on the sidewalks. And I know in the subdivision that I've walked through, there are oak trees. They're probably about, 3-4 years old. They're not yet producing the acorns, and they're not yet producing the huge roots. But policy needs to be developed on which trees should be planted where and which trees should not be planted there. And an oak tree should not be planted anywhere near a sidewalk or a road. Parks, great. They're wonderful trees. So the other example I give is that there's been a fruit tree or a berry tree, whatever you want to call it, planted in the dog park. And I think you're probably aware of that one. You don't want fruit trees, and you don't want these berries. This particular one isn't good for animals, but you don't want any fruit tree in a dog park because the fruit comes down, the bees come. Not a good idea. Plant it 5 feet away from wherever, but don't plant it within a dog park. So I'm guessing that we probably don't have a tree policy of which trees should be planted where and where they shouldn't be planted, more importantly.
Director Dilwaria, could you please speak to that?
Madam Chair, through you to the councillor, we have a policy. It's when we are looking at the subdivisions and when we are looking at the variety of the tree that needs to go, it's the staff is the one who is reviewing it, and based on their experience and their knowledge, they are the ones who are recommending the tree type. But I have received an email from councillor, and I would be responding to that, both the issues about the huckberry tree in the dog park and the oak tree which is being planted in that subdivision. I would be sending an email response back to the councillor, and I'll copy all the councillors on it. And I would be able to send that response tomorrow.
I appreciate that explanation, but there's more than one oak tree in the subdivision, and granted, now they're probably 3 or 4 years old. They're going to be a problem. They're going to create a mess. So whoever says that this is a tree that should go on the boulevard by a sidewalk needs to do a little bit more research to find out this is not where you put oak trees or chestnut trees or black walnut trees. Just because it's a beautiful tree, and oak trees are beautiful trees, but you don't want them in certain places. And if that's on your list of, yeah, you can plant it there, I suggest strongly that you review the list and think about what happens in 5 years or 10 years when that tree starts to drop its acorns or drop its chestnuts. God forbid if there's black walnuts being dropped, or berry trees or fruit trees within a dog park. I think you need to do, it's just one of those things. I can just see our sidewalks being destroyed in about 10 or 15 years with the roots of the oak tree. And that would be a shame. And at this current time, the tree isn't big enough, the roots aren't massive enough to create a problem. But they will be. So and the nuts, the acorns that fall down, they're going to provide problems for people walking and people pushing, walkers or baby cars. I don't know why anybody would recommend an oak tree 2 feet from a sidewalk. Don't get it.
Well, perhaps you could just speak to staff and get the rationale, Director. Is that appropriate and possible?
We would do that, and I will send that information to councillor.
And if there are any further issues or questions.
I would just suggest that every tree that we put on the list, we Google it. Advantages, disadvantages, where it should be planted, where it shouldn't be planted, and that will definitely improve our tree planting in the future.
Thank you. Inquiries or new business? The business status report, are there any questions with respect to the business status report? That being the case, I hereby close this meeting of the Planning, Building and Bylaw Services Subcommittee and turn the chair back to you, Councillor McDermott.
Thank you, that was riveting.
As riveting as corporate services and IS usually are.
Yeah. We'll move on to infrastructure. Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Councilor McDermott. Infrastructure Services is now in session. There are no presentations and delegations. We do have one report, report number IS 09-2026, 6 Mile Creek Flooding Project Update. Does somebody want to put it on the floor? Councillor Flagg, thank you. The report is now on the floor for comments and questions. Councillor Christensen?
Thank you, Councillor Noyes. I welcome this project being moved forward. As I remember all too well, the 2019 flood that virtually, well, it made Shirley Road and Neva Road north of Thunder Bay virtually impassable and completely flooded 6 Mile Creek. So I certainly welcome this. There are still some reservations and questions that residents, one particular resident who's been affected numerous times. So I'd just like to ask the director a couple of questions. The first is the proposed berm. Can you advise the type of material and the size and sort of a bit of engineering background with respect to the protection that it will provide for the community?
Mr. Peasel?
Yes, through the chair. Through this report, they've determined that a naturalized earth berm extending 425 meters long, this will be done through the adjacent of the wetlands, protecting the properties to the north and west of the wetlands, and 6 Mile Creek, along with passive backflow prevention at the 2 tributaries.
Councillor Christensen?
And this is specifically related to the lake effect flooding, not to overland flooding, is that correct?
Correct. So a Schedule B municipal class assessment was determined to cause, the root cause of the flooding was caused primarily by the lake storm surge events or the SAISH events that happen when we get strong west or southwest winds.
Councillor Christensen?
Thank you, and I really would like to give a kudos to the staff, to Lisa Vespi, who's managed that project. I hope you pass that on, Director.
I will.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing, I do have a question in regards to, this is an update for information, the flooding project update for information, that this is coming back to council again. Yes, because I know that we've had some late emails from an individual who was concerned, and I know I couldn't open one of them. I don't know if the rest of council could, but we do have another opportunity of looking at this, yes?
Yeah, through the chair, that is correct, yes.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to move on to new business and inquiries. Any new business and inquiries? Oh yes, let's vote on it. Okay, all those in favor of the report? Carried. That brings us to new business inquiries. Seeing none, that brings us to a business status report. Seeing none, infrastructure services is now closed, and I turn back the chair.
You? Councillor Flagg.
Thank you, Chair. Corporate and Community Services in session. No presentations or delegations this evening. We do have a report 11.2.1 CS 07-2026 on the floor for mover. Thank you, Councillor Noyes. Are there questions or does, you want to talk on it?
Through you, Councillor, if you're asking me for any comments, I would just certainly want to express some thanks to our team with Carly Griffin and Bryce Miller here in attendance, also Jing Yang, our accounting analyst, for all of the work, and many others that put into this annually for the town.
Questions, Councillor Noyes?
Yes, I see that we're going to be approving, or we're voting on, I guess, an approved loan to the Ridgeway Business Improvement Area for $25,170. I'm not necessarily against this, but again, I didn't think the BIAs were supposed to go into debt.
Director?
Through you, Councillor, yes, you are correct. This is not something that is typically planned for. This is a result of more than a couple of years of usage of reserves. There's a description on page 4 related to the deficits. This wasn't approved in advance, but we are working together with the BIA board to ensure we have a repayment plan in place. The town has assurances through future collections through BIA levies that the amounts will be returned to the town.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that it will be. I just want to make sure that the BIAs everywhere in town don't think we're setting precedent, that this is exception to the rule, but the rule still stands about not going into debt.
You can confirm that for us?
Yeah, that is correct. I mean, there are exceptional circumstances at times. We do try to work to prevent this kind of scenario. This is something that is unique, absolutely.
Councillor?
Nothing further.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor? Opposition? None. Thank you. And again, Director, please pass on to your team. I know you've got a couple members here. They work tirelessly, and their families give an awful lot at this time of year for that, and we appreciate that very much. That'll bring us to new business inquiries. Any questions on the business status report? Seeing none, Chair, back to you.
Oh, thank you. Could I get a motion to go into closed session? Councillor Christensen, thank you. Thank you. We return from closed session. Councillor Christensen, do you have a motion?
Yes, Councillor McDermott, moved by myself that council does now rise and reconvene from closed session at 7:14 PM with report. 1, that council approves the council meeting minutes of June 22nd, 2026, and 2, that council receives confidential report LLS 08-2026 litigation update 4152 Erie Road and authorizes the town solicitor to proceed as directed in closed session.
No? Everybody on summer vacation already?
Oh.
Councillor Christensen.
Thank you. The Senior Citizens Advisory Committee will meet on Wednesday of this week, the 8th, at 10 PM in Committee Room 1.
That's it?
Actually, this is not a meeting, but it really needs to be said. I want everyone's invited, including the whole town, to Ridgefest, which will start at 6 PM Friday, July the 10th, with bands and entertainment and food trucks and everything. We'll continue on Saturday, starting at 8 AM in the morning and going till 11 at night. And they're bringing back, the BIA is bringing back Family Day on Sunday from 8 to 4. So hope for good weather, and there will be food trucks, vendors. The Ridgeway Farmers Market will be having its offerings on the Saturday. The car show will be there, bands Friday and Saturday night, and fun for the whole family on Sunday.
Some shameless promoting, Councillor Christensen.
Absolutely.
Who would like Nick tonight? Councillor Noyes?
7:16.